Here's one of the objections that I always get is, that's all well and good for you, Jon, but that won't work in this industry, this boring industry, or that won't work on CEOs. As if someone becomes the CEO of RedBull and then decides, I'm not going to laugh anymore now that I've made it. That was for when I was not successful.
So, Jon, first of all, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Is this good?
I think that's good. Yeah, you might want to put it a little bit closer, but you're
There we
good.
go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is this a bit awkward?
No, it's fine. It's just a little bit new. I'm not used to having but I'll get used to it.
Cool. So one of the things, Jon, I was really excited to get you to talk about today on the show, email.
Yeah.
You know, it's something that some people might say, do people still use email? Do we still need email? I mean, social media, Snapchatting. And if you guys want to Snapchat and Instagram and do what you crazy kids do, it's totally cool. You can use the hashtag #TheUnconventionalists. But yeah, so email. Is there still a future for email?
Definitely. Especially if you're trying to win business. Senior people still use email. You still use it every day. And it's still one of the best ways to get people's attention if you do it well.
Yeah, and that's what I want to talk to you about today. So take us back to that night when you thought it was a good idea to drink some gin, or whatever the liquor was.
Rum. I can remember that part. I can only remember parts of it. But I do remember thinking, I've got to write something completely different to what everyone else is writing. And I knew what people were writing, because even as someone that did digital marketing, I would get cold emails to me offering me digital marketing. So I knew what everyone else was writing, and I think I knew the etiquette, that the general rule was like, keep it short, functional,
Dear Mr. Smith,
and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, I'm going to do the complete opposite to that. So even not saying dear, I would say greetings. Greetings, Jon, because who says greetings? And I didn't stick to any of the rules.
Yeah.
And when I reverse engineered why that email worked so well, it's because I never trained in copywriting or anything like that. So all of the other emails that these senior marketing directors were getting, were using copywriting hooks and all of these different things that everyone used.
Yeah.
Whereas I was using sort of like joke formulas from stand-up comedy and sitcoms, and they hadn't seen that before. And people would say, look, you've made our whole office laugh out loud, or you've made me laugh out loud, or even if you've just made my day, you made me smile, I'd like to meet you. And it's as simple as that. If you can make someone smile or make them laugh, you can get a meeting with them. And I met with RedBull, PepsiCo, Hewlett-Packard, Cisco, Symantec, Barclays, HSBC.
That's crazy, though, because I remember when I was reading up about your story, was there a side of you when you kind of woke up the next day and you must have thought, fuck me, someone's answered?
My favourite response that I got in the morning wasn't the most glowing one in the world, but it simply read, my colleague forwarded me your spam email and would like to meet you to discuss opportunities. Which I just thought, I think I'm onto something here. And I was pretty amazed. And then I kept sending it, and every time I would send it out, every time I pressed a button, I would get more meetings. And I was like, I found a magic trick.
Yeah.
I found a way in.
Yeah, because this, if I'm not mistaken, you've got like a background in agency. You kind of hopped around for about 5 years, and then your brother and you decided to create an agency in 2010?
Yeah. So I moved to London in 2006, and then quit my way to the top, just going from agency to agency, and then set my own up in 2010. Yeah. And then a year in, I was like, oh, you have to actually try and get sales. Yeah.
And I want to talk about that and just take us through, because some people here maybe are thinking about setting up their own agencies or setting up their own businesses, or maybe in that transition. What was it like for you between the expectation and the reality of going from working for agencies to setting up a business with your brother?
Yeah, it was interesting because I was always like closing deals when I was at other agencies, but those were warm leads. Like, I thought I was really good. I was closing all these deals, but that's easy when you're just given leads. So I didn't know how to open, and that's the thing. You've got to be able to open opportunities. If you're just relying on other people and word of mouth, that's not predictable. That can stop at any time, and it can dry up. And you've got to be able to make your own opportunities. And when you get that skill, that is a brilliant place to be in. That you know that you can guarantee, I can get this many meetings if I put this much effort in. That's a brilliant place to be, because it never goes away.
Yeah, but you weren't always like this. Like this kind of confident of knowing that you could open up any doors or get any meetings. Like, there must have been a point where you must have thought, I'm dreading sending this email. I can't believe I'm going to...
I wish I could tell you a tale of woe. But it was... the first one I sent was magic. But I guess so. I never wanted to cold call. I think that was my thing. I still now would not want to cold call, because even the best salespeople that I've seen that do cold calling all day, they still get told to fuck off quite often. So I never wanted to do that, and I think that's why I started cold emailing.
Yeah.
But to look at it this way, I had to get drunk to do it, so I must have been afraid.
Yeah, and it's and I think the moment for me when you look at the sort of the archetype of the story of your story, it's like your word to mouth leads were drying up,
Yeah.
and so you were kind of faced against the wall, and you had to do something. And that was that moment that night when you sent that email.
Yeah.
Now, you said you looked at it and reverse engineered to understand why it worked so well. Why did it work so well?
I looked at it, and the very first line tells a lot of it. The very first line, something like, "Greetings, first name. You've never heard of me. Hi, I'm Jon. I got your details from a list, gasp. But hey, at least you're list worthy. That's got to be worth something, right?" So for people in marketing, being on a list means you're on a list of people, and they get emailed all the time because they're on some kind of list. But no one has thought to compliment these people that they've made it. You know, that it's somehow like a good thing. And also no one else emailing them is being that honest. Like, who admits that in the first line? Most emails start with, "Do you have this problem? Do you have..." And no one speaks like that.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to go and lay in be as honest as I can initially, and that will disarm people. And I learned that this actually is a persuasive skill. Warren Buffett does it in his stock presentations. Not that he has much bad news, but he'll start with the worst news he has, because then everything else he says has more credibility. And that's exactly what you do there. The very first line does that.
So kind of, so what I'm hearing is like one of the tips is like one of the first opening lines of email, just be honest about, you know, if you managed to find this email because you nicked it off your mate while he was in the toilets on a phone, just say, "Hey, I stole your email," or whatever. Yeah.
It's really hard to be annoyed at someone when you've already stated your intentions or you've already apologized. It's really hard to be annoyed at someone once you've said that, especially if you're funny when you're doing it. You can get away with anything if you're funny, even sending cold emails.
So this is something I've heard you say before around when we send emails, we awkwardly change the way we speak.
Yeah.
Why is that?
I don't know. Because I've always been the other way around, where I can't write in the sort of... I tried to do a corporate copywriting gig last year, and I couldn't do it because it was writing in this just way that was not natural. And it definitely happens to people. They can be the funniest person ever, but they get in front of a computer and they're scared to even put a smiley face. They're like deleting it, like, can I put that? And I think the other part is that you put people on a pedestal. Just because someone... Here's one of the objections that I always get is, "That's all well and good for you, Jon, but that won't work in this industry, this boring industry," or "That won't work on CEOs." As if someone becomes the CEO of RedBull and then decides, "I'm not going to laugh anymore now that I've made it. That was for when I was not successful." You can't pigeonhole people by job title. Everyone has a sense of humor, most people, and if they don't, probably don't want to work with them. It's probably very self-selecting in that way.
And is humor teachable?
Yes, it's... I was on a podcast with a copywriter. He used to be a stand-up comic, and he said it's... I'm not getting this right, but it's teachable to the teachables, or something like that. And there are structures, like if you watch any stand-up or sitcoms, or which I did from... I think that's why it was ingrained from the age of like 6 till a teenager, watching it till the early hours. There are formulas. There's the triples, where there's the pair of three.
Build, kill.
There's the reverse. There are formulas that you can use which are teachable. Some people have a more natural ability to do that. Some people have more defined personalities than others. But there are definitely structures. You know, all comedy is using words and rhythm and timing to elicit humor. So there are definitely formulas there. It's easier for some people to learn. So
anybody here who thinks that they can't learn how to make humorous copy, it's learnable. Yeah. So this is something that also I want to talk about. So now you've stopped doing your agency with your brother in 2016. Is that right? Last year? Yeah, I realized after all this time, and I still have the digital marketing skills. All this time working with technology, the thing I'm best at is putting the right words in the right order to the right people and opening these opportunities. I don't know why it took me 5 years of getting these glowing responses to discover that, but I'm glad I finally got there. Yeah, because it's, you know, I really want to sort of draw in, because you almost make it sound like, oh, it was maybe it was an easy process. But I don't know if there's anybody here who's got that fear of like, oh, but what if I what if I quit my gig and I try and set up my own business and I fail and I don't get those leads or I don't get those things open. What kept you going in those moments of doubt and those moments of fears?
Alcohol.
This podcast does not support drinking support.
There comes a point where my friend said this to me the other week, where it's like, yeah, I think what runs you, John, is that you don't believe that you can fail. Whereas I'm like, no, I've just failed so many times. Like most of my emails don't get responded to, but people only remember the great results you've got. So it's just fail so often that it's not scarce resource anymore. It just doesn't bother me. Yeah. But the more I do that and the more I try things out, the more I will find success. Yeah. And I still have campaigns that fail, and I still think, oh, I've lost it. Humor doesn't work anymore. But that's not the case. What's
the most daring line you sent, thinking, ooh, I can't send this. This is too much?
I think there was one to there was one recently to a client that we've got like an on-off relationship, and during the hurricane I emailed saying, are you in Florida by any chance? I got a humorous response to it though. And then there was there's been others, but I can't remember them immediately. That was daring. That could have got silence, and it could have got awkward. But yeah.
And so now you teach that, right? So now, like Charm Offenses, tell us a bit more about what Charm Offenses does then.
So, yeah, at the end of March this year, just on a whim, there was another group that I liked on Facebook called the Cult of Copy. And I just found it interesting. Just created this weird atmosphere, this very cool group where he taught people sales copywriting. And I had a paid call. I did a call with the guy that runs it. It's got like 26,000 members. And I told him my story, and he said, yeah, I think you've got something unique enough that this could work. And I started it up, and I started writing, and I was just myself, and it resonated. My stupid way of doing business, people enjoyed it, and people were very curious because I didn't show my templates, like the emails I was sending for the first few months. Yeah. So I just put the screenshots up, and parts of it were censored because it would give away what was in the template. And everyone was like, what the hell are you writing to get these responses? So that kind of helped. And it just took off. Yeah. And it was the best decision I've made in business for a long time.
Because you've got like 4,000 members now?
Nearly 4,500.
And when did you start it?
The end of March, start of April. Yeah.
That's amazing. So what's been a secret for people here who are thinking, hey, I've got a side project, a side hustle, whatever it is. You know, I want to start a Facebook group. I want to get people. What would be like a little tip or a secret you can share with them?
Yeah, there's because there are so many Facebook groups, you've got to have something distinct. Like for me, I combine two elements that shouldn't really go together. So it's like cold pitching and humor. It shouldn't really go together. People are like, that's interesting, and it seems to be working, and he's got loads of proof. So that's something, having a unique angle. So I see so many Facebook groups, and the ones that have got a unique angle, showing up every day is important. And the other thing I did was I helped people obsessively for 3 months. Like I did free mentorship, which I didn't have time for, but I just did it. And everyone that messaged me, I went out of my way to help. And because of that, when they got results, they would post their screenshots of their success. And now I don't have to solicit those testimonials. Other people try my advice, they post their results. So I've got this continual flow of social proof that I started myself by just helping people, and then some of them I'd go, can you post those screenshots? So that would help.
I just want to hone in that point just for a second, because I think this is something that a lot of people struggle with around this idea of like, how much should I be giving? How much should I be giving away? What should I be charging? And what I'm hearing you say is that actually in the first 3 months, you were just like, I'm just going to help you as much as I can, give you as much value as I can. Yeah. And that paid off tenfold by them then sharing their like winning almost moments. And that made you shine, I guess.
And that's now because so many people did that, and I solicited a lot of those testimonials. People do it without me soliciting them now. So they'll take my advice, whether it's they've paid for a course of mine or they've just taken the free advice. It's a behavior that people do now because it's a thing. People just post their results and go, thanks, John. Another one today went up. So to start with, if you don't have a following already, which I didn't have, I've been in business a long time and I've never tried to build like a profile or a following. So my way around that was, well, I'm just going to make sure so many people do well that people have to take notice.
What's up, Unconventionalist Tribe? It's Mark here. I want to let you know two things if you enjoyed today's conversation. First of all, you can subscribe to the show because there's going to be many more inspiring conversations I'll be sharing with you, and I'll also be doing more solo rounds to share the tips and tactics that you can use to grow your business, get your message out into the world, and build a tribe of raving fans. The second thing is, if you enjoyed the conversation, you can also go and get the full, unedited, raw version of today's talk on the podcast. That's right. I sat down for almost an hour with Jon and we talked about his techniques and his hacks that he used in order to grow his Facebook group from nothing to almost 4,000 plus in just a few months with 0 following. So it's an incredible story. Make sure to go and check it out and let me know in the comments below this video what was your favorite nugget from today's video. I'll see you next time.